Good evening. It's May 12th, and welcome to the North Andover School Committee. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we'll first rise for Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. So as a reminder, we are being recorded, and if you'll be so kind to please silence your mobile devices. Looks like we have a fairly short agenda this evening, but a very exciting one. And first, I'd like to ask if there's any public comment this evening. So we have a chance now. We're at the end of the meeting if need be. And seeing nobody scampering to the table, I'd like to move on. I'm going to take things slightly out of order since some of our recognition representatives are not here yet. I'd like to ask if we can have our student report. Please. How are you, Courtney?
Good, how are you?
Great.
Taking that seat today.
Senioritis setting?
Yeah. Well, I'd like to congratulate the boys volleyball team for winning their first ever match. And there's an all-town chorus concert happening right now. And I would also like to point out that there isn't much options for vegetarians during lunchtime. I know like there's bagels and like reduced fat Cheez-Its, which is not that good by the way. And there's like these other small options, even salads $4, but that's it. And they have this small horizon of what they could possibly get, and they don't. I think it'd be better if we like opened it up for them and like we had a more diverse food options for them. So that's it for today.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Matt's not here tonight? I assume he's... No, Matt's here. No, Matt. Okay, very good. Super. Yeah. Great.
Got a lot of homework.
She must be double parked, yes, I guess.
It is junior year.
Yes, indeed. The next item, I'd like to bounce back to recognition. We have our robotics team here, and who will be walking us through that? Dr. Scazzarella?
I'm just going to introduce Mike Motherway.
Perfect.
So Mike Motherway is the high school engineering and technology teacher, and he also runs all of our robotics programs. So I'm actually going to turn this over to him. We wanted to recognize our two teams that went to the World Championships towards the end of April vacation. They did really well, and Mike can tell you a little bit about that, and maybe even a couple of the kids. So.
Great.
Most of the crowd here is the Kentucky contingent. He's all went down on vacation. Where's JJ? Well, JJ, so he's going to bring us up. I guess I'll sit these. We had started with 11 teams this year at the high school between the classes and after-school program, and competed. We hosted 2 tournaments at the high school, then went to Worcester for third, and we had 2 teams advance into, or 3 into the regionals, and then 2 advance from the regionals into the World Championships in Kentucky. So we have Team A and B. We had 9 students in total go to Kentucky, and you can see the crowd in the front with the same shirt I'm wearing. So what impressed me the most is they had 500 teams advance to this competition from 31 countries from around the world, and we literally in our pit area in Kentucky were sitting next to Minnesota. Shanghai was across the way, another Midwest town to our left, and or state to our left, and it's just impressive that these guys and girl rose to seriously. They both rose to the finals in that pool of robotics competition. It was very impressive. So top 10%, and then Team A made tops, that ranked number 6 in the individual robot skills competition out of 500 teams. So it was very good. So I'd like to introduce Team A. Why don't you stand up first? And so we have Josh Howell, Dimitri Brakos, Connor Ford, and we're missing, here we go, John Ferris, and who's number 5? Andy. Inhyuk Jian, right? And then, and Team B, half of Team B is over singing at the chorus. So that is Terry Hurst and Sarab Kumar, and we have Tej Sheth and Rima Sheth, also from Team B. Wonderful. Very good. JJ brought a robot. I'd like to see it.
Yeah, do you have
I have the robot in my car if you guys want to see it.
in the car? Okay. So how many heats did you have to compete with to get to the final?
Well, the way it works is the 500 teams are divided into 100 different divisions. 100 different teams have in each division. There's 5 divisions randomly assigned, and all the different teams rose to the quarterfinals. So to get to that round and to really like set our place and see how good the other teams were, we played 10 matches, and both teams of those 10 matches won 8 matches. Which is really, really difficult at an international level.
And how many of you have done robotics last year?
Everybody
Except for me and then one other.
How hard
teammate.
was this?
Actually, all but 2 went to Kentucky last year. It was part of the first time advancing to the World Championship. So this year they broke up into 2 teams and both advanced.
So we got ringers now, right?
Yeah.
And how hard was the course this year compared to last year in your mind?
This year's game was a lot more difficult just because of the randomized aspect of the balls. So the balls had varying density, varying size, and a lot of different obstacles that we had to encounter from shooting them accurately full court, which is around 16 feet. So as you brought the balls, you can see there's some very soft balls, some very hard balls, and with our flywheel design.
Soft ones, please.
So, JJ, would you mind putting it on the table?
I don't want to scratch it.
It's okay. There you go.
No, scratch the robot.
So with our flywheel design, we relied a lot on compression to be shooting the balls, so the different density really screwed with our accuracy for a while, but we managed to dial in some of the distance between the flywheel and the top of the hood so that we were accurately shooting.
Very impressive. Very impressive.
So you build the whole thing yourselves?
Yes.
And is there a model that you have to follow at all?
Everything is
Anything
purely
you want?
designed based on things that you've seen work in the past, things that you design and work well. So we built the drivetrain completely from scratch, the intake as well, and we semi-modeled our flywheel off of another team, but we added our own twist using a little bit of a larger wheel, so we had a faster refresh rate with more moment of inertia, but basically most of the robot we came up with ourselves.
You go ahead.
So when you go to like the international competition, like are there also workshops where you're learning? I mean, I know you're competing,
Yeah.
but like I can't even imagine building something like that. So like, are you in sessions or classes?
No, it's
all
purely competition based.
So there is the competition stuff, and there's also a lot of booths with professional companies around. Like we have Autodesk, who had a booth, NASA had a booth. There's multiple robotics companies that get booths. We actually had a pretty cool one. If any of you guys watch BattleBots, Byte Force was there.
Okay.
So
that
did
was
NASA
pretty
have to
cool.
solve the differential equations, or you guys have to do it on your own?
Yeah.
So you guys, that's one of the smaller robots I've seen in these competitions. Was yours smaller than most?
So yeah, we originally had a max size robot, which was 18 by 18 by 18,
How much
but inches. Yeah, but we weren't a fan of how clunky it was, so we ended up shortening it a little bit and making it less wide, just so that we could maneuver better and be lighter on the field. So
the size is one of the things you have to do. You have to get
yes.
smaller.
Yes. And our robot was a little different. Essentially the same concept for launching and shooting balls was pretty much the same. Only difference is our intake system was a little different, so it was based around a dual suspension system. And ours was a little bit heavier because we had an exoskeleton for a lift, so it would lift another robot.
Interesting.
Wow.
Very cool. Very cool.
Other than the technical, what have you learned by being part of the robotics team?
I'd say teamwork.
Yeah, I was thinking teamwork, and if something goes wrong with the robot, you have to be able to be on your feet and fix it immediately. And then also, I think talking with other teams, because you're paired with another team when you have a match, so you have to talk to them, see what their strengths are, and if you can adapt to their strengths, what can you help them with, so you guys can work as a team, even if there's somebody you've never met in your life and you just met them like 2 minutes ago. And then you have to compete with them.
Communication's
So,
everything.
yeah.
Just to score as many points as you can with just a couple minutes notice to configure strategies.
Just to speak a little bit about the fixing on the fly, Team A had a little bit of a disaster at Worlds where one half of the drivetrain bent, and our robot was not functional for a good portion of a day, and we had to completely replace almost half of the robot, and we managed to stay calm and get it done in a timely fashion. So that taught us a lot about being prepared for anything. Yeah.
Being a Louisville veteran, right? Sort of like watching NASCAR, right? The pits, they're tearing stuff apart, slamming it together.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So when you've got the balls, are you trying to get the robot to shoot it, or are you trying to get it to...
So the balls are intake through the front, and we're constantly shooting from different positions on the field based on the speed of the flywheel. And there's the short range shot, the mid range, and the full court. And the net basically has like a triangle opening at the top.
Mid range shot.
Could you have Mr. Gilligan?
No, we're going for this. I'm ready.
Yeah, mid range. Mid range.
Now we have problems. I just died.
Very good. Thank you. You want some? I'm good. We have plenty of extras.
Okay. Yeah. Just to give you a little sense, in our robot skills match, which we play 6 in, we could fire about 32 of those guys in 11 seconds. So
Pretty impressive. Very impressive.
So are you moving the robot to actually literally pick them up from the ground and the floor,
Yes.
and then you're shooting? So
Yeah.
you're moving and shooting at the exact same time, and then...
Well,
Yes?
no. Yeah. So there's every match is 2 minutes with 15 seconds for an autonomous portion, which everything is purely coded by Josh over here, pre-programmed, and then we have 1 minute and 45 seconds of driver control. I was the driver this year, and my plan was to just go around, grab as many as the orange balls as I could, which were worth double points, hoard them in the corner, and just start shooting. So if you were to shoot while driving, you wouldn't really be accurate unless you're at the really close range, because we figured out we have a zone from 2 feet away from the net to 4 feet away from the net, where if you're driving forward as shooting, the balls will all make it in, so that was a pretty neat thing. But we basically pick up the balls, turn after we pick them up, and just stand still and shoot them as fast as we can, which was about 2 to 3 balls per second, so we had a very good fire rate.
Yeah, so from the balls that were being launched at Dr. Price, those are about 1 or 2 balls per second, and then I was going to turn the launch at Mr. Gilligan over here at closer to 4 balls per second, because it's a little shorter and
don't need as much rev up time in between
exactly.
shots.
I see.
Yeah.
That's
One
absolutely
of my favorite
good
quotes
talking.
this year, just another way. I go to physics, calculus, and robotics, and all I do is math.
Well, Mr.
That
Melody,
was the RPM calculations at the beginning of the year.
there you go.
Those were fun.
So congratulations on your victory, and we look forward to seeing you at the next competitions. You did your town well, and congratulations. And Mr. Motherway, I can't thank you enough for the extra time and effort and the parent volunteers who make this such a successful activity. No, thank you. Thank you. That was probably the most interactive school committee meeting we've had in quite a while.
That was the best part of my job so far. That
There
was
you
fun.
go. Awesome. Oh, there you go. That'll be the new. There you go.
Oh, yeah, right, exactly.
Great.
All right.
Dr. Cosrell, do you want us to hold off, or would you want to?
Should we let these guys go if they've got to...
You don't have to stay.
All right, guys.
You're welcome
Thank
to. I
you.
mean, again,
Thank you all very much.
congratulations.
Thank you so much for coming and showing us. That was fun.
Any help taking things out? I'll take the back.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Can I
you.
take a minute of everybody's time?
Yeah.
So, Tej and Rima both are my kids, and they've gone through the North Andover school system since kindergarten. I've contacted, and we're strict vegetarians. No chicken, no seafood, no meat in the house. Cheese is okay. Multiple times I've contacted the school, and I've been told that every time there's always one option. It'll happen 1 year, I'll tell the kids, ask for it when you get there, and the lunch ladies will always say, this is what you have. The next year again, I started an email one after the other. What are we doing? There are 2 kids. I'd love to have some options. I'd get an email back saying they always have an option. Once I was told there's a board actually that has your options. So the kids go to school and ask, what are the options? Lunch lady says, this is what you have. And, kids, they don't want to be the odd one out at school, making a big deal, asking for it. It would be good if our schools had a little more options.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This is one more of the robotics kids. This is Terry Harris. He was over singing, so he's one of the kids coming in. I just wanted to be sure.
So did that mean you had to go from Tennessee to Kentucky in the middle of April vacation?
Yes.
Wow. That's
Got to
awesome.
see some of
Programmer for Robot B.
Wow.
Codemaster.
Great.
Wonderful.
Nice job, Terry.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Scazzarella, did you want to go on to...
You know what, I'll do that donation if that's okay, and then when the chorus kids get here.
Yeah, with the
they're
committee's
coming over
approval,
for those.
I'd like to bounce around a little bit, given that some of recognition, unfortunately, won't be here until 7:30. So I'd like to move on to consent agenda and move back to recognition later. First item is acceptance of the meeting minutes from the 28th. And is there a second? Second. Great. Any comments or questions or corrections? I just have one typo, well, actually a typo and a request. On the collaborative Crest, the Crest Collaborative, it indicates that the vote was, but we're missing the actual tally, so if we can get that corrected. I believe that was 5-0, according to my notes.
Yep.
And then the last comment I have is on budget status report. I did ask if it was possible to get dispensation from the vendor for the extra time and effort that our administrative staff is taking to try to straighten out Munis. So I'd like to see, if that's not possible, I would like at least to see that the minutes recognize that request is there.
We'll do that.
Thank you. Anyone else? I know Ms. Mabley is not here yet, so I'm going to call for a vote, and if she has any comments, we'll wrap those up later. All in favor of accepting minutes as presented with the corrections on May 12th, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? That's 4-0, and thank you. Now, we can move on to our acceptance of a donation. Dr. Scazzarella?
So as you're aware, we received a very generous $5,000 donation for the robotics program from the 3M Corporation. The one, I think I put it on the sheet, the one stipulation was that it had to be used strictly to purchase equipment for the robots and supplies for the robots. So it wasn't able to be used for any part of paying for the trip or anything like that. So that was the piece that I'm going to end up reimbursing our account, Mike's account in our consolidated fund with that check for the parts that they spent money on for all the emergency procedures for the robot and just building the robots.
Okay.
Was donation solicited, or did they just come out of nowhere?
I think that Mike Motherway has connections with a few corporations, and he knows which ones are willing to support programs like this. So I think he contacted them and said, gee, we're going to the World Championships. Would you be interested in making a donation towards our program? So they very generously did.
That's fabulous. Fantastic. Just out of curiosity, can we carry that forward?
Oh, yeah, that's in the consolidated account,
Okay.
so it'll stay there. If he didn't use all $5,000 of it on equipment for this year, it can move for next year. Yeah.
Beautiful. Great. Any other comments or questions? No. So I'd entertain a motion to...
Accept the donation as presented in the packet.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. It looks like it's unanimous, 5-0.
Thank you.
4-0, excuse me. Thank you. All right, let's, again, while we're waiting for our recognition recipients, let's move on to a chair report. So we had a very interesting town meeting earlier this week. I just wanted to thank all of the folks that showed up in support of both our consensus budget, which was successfully passed, as well as the overwhelming support to keep our budget whole as part of the rejection of the meals tax override. So thanks to all who did show up. The other comment I have is just a reminder that we'll be naming the track officially this Sunday, the Free Sea Athletic Complex. This is the upper field at the high school. If we could have people who do intend to be there show up between 8 and 8:45, we're going to go start promptly at 9. Part of the reason is there's a track meet at 9:30, so we'll need to be respectful of the purpose that that track is there for, and I'm sure that's an appropriate day to start. That's all I have for the chair report.
Can I ask a
Please?
question based on town meeting? We had I guess I'd characterize it as a confusing, maybe, discussion about in-house legal support.
Mm-hmm.
And you and Mr. Teresi are on a joint committee to do that. Is it still your opinion, the two of you, that that's still a good thing to pursue?
So I believe it is in our interest to try that. I think at this point, the benefit to the school department is that we would get unfettered access to times to check contracts, check policy, and check things other than what we do absolutely need special counsel for, such as special ed. And it might increase our abilities to get robust feedback and counsel when the meter is not running, which may be an obstacle. Mr. Teresi, do you have a comment?
Well, there was a couple of misrepresentations on Tuesday night. We have not completed a job description. First, we've met. We had a very good discussion about it, and I think Chairman Gross and myself, we have made it clear that we'd like to make sure that the school committee has good access to this person, which was obviously our concern from the start. It sounded for me there was still obviously some dissension amongst the selectmen, but we still think it's a good thing, and we're going forward, going with it. So at the end of the day, it's their appointment. I mean, there was some of the comments made about town meeting. It's a board of selectmen decision. The charter is crystal clear about it. So we'll move forward. Hopefully, over the next couple of months, we'll finish the job description. We'll interview some candidates and hire someone.
That's good.
They'll hire someone. We'll recommend someone. They'll hire someone. I'll be clear about
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. And we'll see if it's a financial benefit or just better access. Either way, I think it's good.
It seemed clear that from the board chair that her comment was, we'll try it for a year, and if it doesn't work, we'll do something else. I mean,
Well, they have to appoint. That's one of their. I think every June they take a vote to reappoint, and they've reappointed the same council for 18 years. So.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. So that's it for chair report. Ms. Mabley, welcome.
Thank you.
You missed the Stellar Robotics
that's too bad.
demonstration. We'll back the tape up for
Well,
you.
I saw them outside, so.
Perfect.
You could have sat right in this chair if you'd wanted to.
You missed the athletic prowess of our superintendent.
Incredible agility.
I'll be sure to catch up. I saw an excellent performance at the Thompson schools.
There you go.
Indeed. Great. I'd like to move on to superintendent report.
Yeah, just a few things. First of all, I do want to let you know that I will not be at the track dedication on Sunday. I was hoping it was a little earlier, but it is my daughter's coming of age, think bat mitzvah, first communion, and my whole family is coming in from all over. The UU equivalent is coming in from all over, so I need to be there. So I apologize. I have a religious obligation, so I will not be there.
Fully understood.
There you go. Mr. Gilligan will be standing in for me and saying wonderful things.
Excellent.
No pressure, Mr. Gilligan.
Not at all.
Not at all. I'm really excited that our new Director of Human Resources is in the room and would like to congratulate Dr. Carla Scazzarella for that appointment. We're very excited to have her join our central office team, making it slightly more exciting and always a little more crazy up here. So we're really excited to have her. And she did an excellent job through the interview process. I'm really excited to see her develop a comprehensive human resources department to meet the needs of our growing staff. So it's very exciting. So thank you, Carla.
Great. Thank
Welcome
you.
aboard. Quick, two other updates. One is we are in the final stages of our assistant superintendent for student services. We had our final 2 candidates in the district yesterday. The team met this afternoon, and we know which direction we would like to go. We're just hoping the candidate feels the same. So that's where we are right now. I have every expectation. Luckily, even if the one candidate that we're not most excited about, we have a number that we're very excited about. So I'm very confident we'll have an assistant superintendent. for our next meeting. It is the only real position that you all need to confirm. So it is the one that superintendents do not have unilateral. That's in every district. I think you'll be very pleased with whomever I bring forward. So do assume that at the May 26th meeting we will have a candidate in front of us, and you'll get an opportunity to meet her. And I can say her because all the 4 finalists were her, so I'm not giving anything away. So
will we be approving her contract as well?
So you will be you approve terms and conditions of all 9 non-aligned, and we're actually, I told Mr. Gross that our next meeting we will be looking at all of those contracts, and we're going to need an executive session prior.
Okay.
And then the last thing is, typically you have a school committee rule that says that all handbooks have to be approved by May 30th, and I am asking for a small extension on that deadline. In reviewing the handbooks, elementary, middle, and high school, it has come to my attention that they are not aligned with the most current law regarding student discipline, and they need to be realigned. So I have retained the services of an attorney to do that. It's going to take a little longer than May 30th, so I wanted to just let you know that it will be the first meeting in June. So I need a little extra time as we do some significant revisions to the handbooks to make sure that they're in line with the new Massachusetts 37H and 3/4 law.
So the request is to put that on the agenda to suspend the policy. And in your evaluation of the compliance issue in the handbooks, is the policy compliant?
What policy? The handbook, the policy. The only thing about the policy is a date and time that you have to review. So,
but we have policy on discipline and.
So that's what I'm talking about.
I see. Okay. So we should probably take that offline and figure out if we have to make policy change as well.
Yeah. No. Your policy is all about having a handbook. I don't see any policy changes needed. It's just that the handbooks are not in compliance.
Okay.
Are we using our current school counsel for that, or are we using someone else?
No, we're using somebody else for that. Somebody who has an expertise that I've retained and did some training for all of the. I will tell you that the administrators are following the current law. We had somebody come in and do a training in January.
Yes.
For all of the administrators in the district.
And there were some significant changes in
Very
January.
significant changes. So
even though the handbooks don't reflect that, the staff is.
Absolutely. Mostly it's just about notification and having hearings and different ways to write letters, and we've completely, I think Carla would agree, we've changed our process on terms of that. So, but we need to have the handbooks catch up with our change in process.
I see. Okay.
That's it for me.
Excellent.
And Mr. Gilligan has one quick thing.
Just a quick thing. I'm a member, for those who don't know, along with Mr. Limpert, of the townwide opiate task force. It's a advisory committee to the selectmen, and we've been doing some really great education in the district already. But I just wanted to really give a shout out to the middle school. We had the opportunity to bring in the Improbable Players for the 7th and 8th grade last week. And what they do is they set the stage for prevention for students, talking about addiction and recovery through a dramatic performance, and help students recognize the situations in their own lives and seek the help they needed if needed. So it was really exciting. It was a quite expensive play, too. So I have to really give credit to Cheryl Barzak, myself, Jenny Flynn at the high school. We've been working with an outside group, Delilah Rivera. She's the substance abuse personnel director for the Lawrence Methuen Community Coalition, and we're part of that. We fit in under that coalition, and they were able to pay for the play to come in. And I just wanted to share just a couple lines of feedback. We were able to get feedback from all the students that we send back not only to the company, but we share with our health and wellness department at the middle and the high school. And just a few comments from the students, and I summarized it. I have a copy for you. But it accurately resembled a troubled family and how one person's choices and addictions affect everyone around them. It showed that they could overcome their problems and will get better. And it wasn't just a boring lecture or slideshow. I liked how it was real world and could actually happen to any one of us or someone we know. And some really keen insight by our middle school students. There was some follow-up after. Matt Abel, Cheryl Raimondo have been great, along with Officer Caffrey, in terms of this education. And I just wanted to let everyone know that this is a really nice way that that coalition out of Lawrence and Methuen helped us bring some really dynamic programming around making good choices, drug and alcohol education. So.
Fabulous.
Is there any way to make that happen again, or it's kind of a every few years thing potentially?
You know, it's not a one-off. It actually tied in very nicely. It wouldn't be something we'd have back next year, but it could be something we have back the following year where you can do 6th and 7th grade, so it's a new audience. It ties into the curriculum at the middle school and with the health teachers component. And the other thing is it was on very short notice. A lot of these grant-funded things really depend on what they have left running up to the fiscal year of the end of, I think it's July 1st for them as well. So we're able to do some follow-up after, but with more advanced planning, we'll be able to even do more in the classroom before for more preparation and a follow-up after.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gillian.
Good.
All right.
All right, so I'd like to bounce back now that we have some of the best-dressed audience we've seen in a long time. Dr. Scazzarello, would you introduce the next recognition?
Very happy to introduce my music department, Sarah Durkin and Justin Smalley, who put in dozens and dozens of hours outside of their classroom teaching time to work with our marching band, our concert band, our wind ensemble, our concert choir, and our Scarlet Black Singers. They went on a trip, as they do every other year, and they performed in a festival. And I'm then going to let them tell you about their success, but all 4 of our programs won gold medals, which is unique and a really big deal for us in music and for these young people and their performance. So Justin and Sarah, why don't you come up and introduce the kids and talk a little bit about the performances.
I think the season was described as the perfect season. Is that correct?
I think that's what she wrote.
Please.
Sorry, it sounds a little pretentious.
That's why I said it.
But was it better than Disney?
That's why I said it for you.
Thank you. I know some of you I haven't seen before. I'm Sarah Durkins. I'm the chorus teacher at the high school. I've been doing this this is my 8th year here, and it's been really amazing to see the program grow. I know, Brian Gross was in with me for a while. He had 2 of his kids go through our program, but we've never had anything like this happen before. Where all 4 of our performing groups got gold medals in the same competition, and we were, and even the bands were the #1 of the concert bands out of the entire festival, which is incredible. And everyone just did such a great job, and the kids were not only amazing in their performances, but they were they represented North Andover so well in their behavior, in how respectful they were towards everyone they encountered. From the bus ride there, the 15-hour bus ride there, the 15-hour bus ride home, with every interaction with any adult or any adjudicator, any other student, and just being really supportive of all the other students that were in the festival. And that's what we were, at the end of the day, where we were most proud of, is that we really have a bunch of really, really incredible students. So we're really proud of them. And actually next year too, because we all 4 of our groups earned gold medals at this festival, we're able to, we were invited to perform in the Festival of Gold next year with all other gold medal groups from across the country. So it's a real big honor. I went a couple of years ago with Scarlet and Black when they earned a gold medal, and there was no other school that had both their band and their chorus there, never mind every performing group from their school. We have a couple options, but I think the best one that we're going to choose is Washington, D.C.
Right.
Yeah.
How many groups were at the festival?
I think there was maybe 15 or 16. I mean, there were several festivals going on at the time, so overall probably 50 groups, but in our particular festival, maybe 20 groups maybe. It was a two-day event, so it was an all-day event, so really big deal.
Yeah, and if I can just comment, I mean, having gone to a few of these events, it's not sitting around at the hotel. It is up and at 'em. It is practice. It is being patient and being respectful, waiting for your turn, as all the parents and chaperones are in the audience just in jitters. So I know how much work that is, and to bring back 4 golds is unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
And also, too, I would be sad if I didn't mention, too, that our choral accompanist, he's a junior in hye school, Frank Zhao. He earned the most outstanding accompanist award at the festival as well. So, yeah. That's 5 gold medals, right? Sorry, that was loud into the microphone, but you
can be excited,
right? And with us today, we have some of our student leaders. And actually,
Please stand.
Yes.
Come forward, say hello.
So we have the choral presidents. We have Dan Holman, he's a senior, and Tessa Murphy, she's a senior, and Tessa is also the drum major of the marching band as well. And we have Terry Hurst, who is the head of the drum line.
And Master Coder.
Yes, obviously he's he went from the chorus trip down to go do the robot. So he's multi-talented.
That Hearst family. I don't know.
And Erin Murphy, she is the vice president of the band. But they're all also why they're dressed so nice is because we just had a choral. They're all in the chorus. We just had a choral concert. A combined. It's an all-town concert with the middle school also. So
outstanding.
Cool.
And if anybody would like to come see the kids live in action on Tuesday, May 24th, we're hosting our North Andover High School Gold Medal Showcase.
What time?
7 o'clock in the high school auditorium.
Excellent.
We're also going to be doing a piece, the chorus is going to be doing a piece with all the alumni. From my past 8 years, I invited them all to come back to do a final piece with us. So we have kids representative of 2009 all the way until last year. So there's going to be about 50 alumni coming back to sing. So.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well,
sorry, I did a lot of talking.
No, that's good.
You're good?
I know my
Mr.
role.
Smalley's always been a few words.
He doesn't like to talk in the microphone, so I'll do it.
That's
Can I
fabulous.
ask the students, what's it been like this year for you guys?
It's been unreal. It's definitely been a different year being student leaders in the program. It has definitely been an entirely new experience. We've realized how much work it takes to make this program run like how it does, which in our opinion is very well. We realize how well as a team Ms. Durkin and Mr. Smalley work together. And what do you guys have to say?
I know even though I'm a junior, having that vice president position, I was so much more involved in our activities, and I was so much more involved with all the students in our groups, and I was able to get to know a lot of our underclassmen, and even with like two sports, I was able to be very involved, and this year has been the best one yet.
Don't know how you do it. Great. Well, again, congratulations. And thank you.
Just very quickly, one of the things that always impresses me so much at graduation is you have the chorus and the band that's kind of out there, and some of the seniors kind of go up and then they leave, and you kind of just look back and you think like, okay, that's what you start with again next year. You build it right back up again, and then it's exciting, and obviously they're kind of moving on, but just how you kind of continuously build it up and just make such an outstanding program year after year. It's just really a credit to you and the students as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I should also mention it's Mr. Inus and Mr. Nelson in the middle school ensuring this
absolutely.
common curriculum to bring the interest forward as well. So it's for the farm team. For the farm team, right? It's a very well structured program. So again, congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having us. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Let's
you,
start with your
guys.
finals now.
Thank you, guys. And thanks for running over here for us.
Yeah,
we're happy.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so I'd like to jump to new business if that's okay. I know we have two additional participants in the audience, but if the committee would indulge 9A, I'd like to do the first reading of the tuition changes at ECC.
Yes, come on up. So I'd like to just introduce this, and actually, given that the changes would go in effect, we are going to actually ask us, once we do this, to suspend the rules to see if we might be able to vote this tonight. And Mary Lou will explain why that's important.
Yes. Hi, everybody.
Good evening.
Right.
I feel like I'm following robotics with like giant Duplo blocks or something here. But so my request is actually coming from the needs of our program and from the community. We are currently we currently have integrated preschool programs, and we have, for the community, we have half-day programs only. So I'll talk more because in that respect, because that's what I'm asking for tonight. But we have full-day programs for children who have needs that require a full day of program on IEPs. So our tuition-paying children are only half-days. 3 years ago, we had a full-day program. The last 2 years, we haven't had the need for it. The kids have needed a combination of a program where it's integrated in the morning and it's a small group in the afternoon. So we have been doing a lot of brainstorming as a staff. We've taken all of the kids in the program, we've taken a good look at them, and we feel as though we want to react to the changes of the needs of our kids, and to the community wanting more hours, believe it or not, for 3- and 4-year-old children. So we would like to propose or have still our integrated preschool program, which is 2.5 hours a day, 4 days a week. That will stay the same, and that's currently $3,200 a year. We don't propose to raise that. For a lot of families, that's even a difficult amount to come up for, but they make it work. But we want to introduce a lunch buddy program. So our children with special needs now will have lunch buddies, and this will be probably just one class. It will involve probably 8 children that will stay until 12:30, so it will be 4 days a week, 12:30. We'll give them lunch, or they can purchase lunch. And we're proposing that program cost $4,200 a year, and then we are proposing a full-day inclusion program, bringing it back again after 3 years, and that we're proposing to cost $5,200 for 4 days a week, and that will be 6 hours a day. And we probably will have 2 classes, which will be 16 children. So the slots are limited. We anticipate a lot of parents wanting this, but obviously we are limited in our numbers and our space and the needs of the children. So what I'm asking tonight is to approve the $4,200 for the Lunch Buddy program and the $5,200 for the full inclusion program. So I did survey different towns. I surveyed approximately 17 schools. So I included some private preschools, but I quickly realized that we can't really compare our program prices to a private school program for a lot of different reasons. So I went more with public. There were 14 public school programs that I compared our school system to, and then I narrowed it down to 5 that seem more similar to us. And in looking at all of their tuition and meeting with our staff and seeing what comments we get about the tuition costs that people are paying out there, I feel as though we've come up with pretty good prices and manageable for a lot of our families. We also have free and reduced tuition, too, for the families that can't afford it. So I am asking for approval for those tuition amounts tonight.
One just comment before is, one of the things that we've talked a lot about is for our students transitioning into kindergarten, that it can feel like a really big shift. We're trying our best to keep our kindergarten-sized classes down, but they go from a small classroom for the afternoons to 22, 24, 25, 26 students. So Mary Lou's been really thinking about that transition, and this will provide more time for kids to be in a larger classroom setting as they transition into kindergarten. And I really appreciate your effort in thinking about this. And being so flexible, I mean, that's what defines our ECC, is that we adapt to the needs of kids. And this is an adaptation to the needs of kids. And so I really appreciate your efforts on this.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, this is tuition for the regular ed kids.
Correct.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Regular ed kids.
Yeah.
So kids not on IEPs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what time?
And we're not, sorry.
What time do you guys start? 8:30?
We start at 8:45.
8:45 to 12:30 now?
Yep. And then we'll go 8:45 to 2:45.
8:45 to 2:45.
And then on Friday mornings, all of our programs are small groups. So Friday morning is a chance for our children with on IEPs or with special needs to really go over some pre-teaching, curriculum, vocabulary, meet some of the goals and objectives on their IEPs, and get them more prepared for the following week. So Friday mornings will stay the same. It's Monday through Thursday that we're proposing the changes. And it's been interesting because I collaborate with Andover, Lawrence, Methuen, all of our surrounding communities who run programs like ours, and it's always the talk of what to do with our programs and that. And I think we do have to react to not only the community but the needs of the kids. And kindergarten is a big jump for our kids, so we want to see how they do with a bigger class, and we want we want to be their safety net before they go to a class of 24, if that's what the class is going to be. So I think it's a good next step for us, but I can't guarantee that we'll be able to have the kids that need full inclusion every year. Every year we just have to look at it. It's a huge project for us. We've got the whiteboard up and down because we use the conference room for a lot of reasons. So our whole staff has worked really hard. It's been a lot of really open, honest discussions.
And you feel like you have families who will fill these slots?
Definitely. So I did survey all the families probably about 2 months ago. I also surveyed our entire waiting list. And I have to say that out of everybody I surveyed, I think we had about 5 families who wanted to stay at the 2.5 hours. So we may have a little problem with getting parents to fill the 2.5 hours, but I don't anticipate it, hopefully. But there is a lot of interest in parents, the kids having extended days.
So how would you go through that process, given there's so many people in demand for the program?
Well, I think we're having a discussion now, given priority maybe to the parents that are in program, having a lottery system to that first, finding out who's definitely interested. I have a letter all prepared, ready to go out tomorrow, if that's the case. And then going to the waiting list and doing, I'm not sure, it's some kind of a lottery, or I'm not really sure. And we also have to look at the ages of the kids and the readiness of them. We'll be screening all the kids in that, because 6 hours is a long day, and it's a very different program than them going to daycare for 6 hours. You know, we'll give them a 15, 20-minute rest, and we're going to have them up and moving again, and a lot different than a 2-hour nap.
And this won't change our ratios of special ed to traditional ed?
Not at all. And it won't change the staffing, really, either. We won't...
You're not hiring anyone new?
No. This will all be with our current staffing. Now, I can't say that my special ed enrollment in the fall won't go up in a too huge amount, and I may be back.
Mary Lou can never say that.
Never say that.
I want to go on record that I didn't say we don't need anybody next year. No, I don't. Right now, the way it is, it's all with current staff.
Okay. And Mr. Mealy, how will this affect the revolving account?
It actually will increase a little bit the annual revenue.
Yeah, we're raising tuition. It's going to increase revenue.
Well, we're raising tuition without a labor
raise it
cost.
without increasing expenses.
But it's not a huge number of students.
Yeah, that's what extra. How many students are we talking?
We're probably talking 24.
24.
So potentially 16 full day and 8 lunch bunch.
And then how many do the current program now who would follow the current model, theoretically?
How many would
You're keeping some who are going to leave at the half-day point.
Yeah, so we would still have 48-ish at the half-day. The other 2 things we're looking at, which won't be a cost either, we're looking at, or to the town, is possibly talking, Rick Galante and I have been talking a little bit about maybe some before-school care, because we're really, right now, parents need more daycare. There are a lot of working parents in that. So, and we're working with Erica Murphy to try to come up with the best way to provide a lunch program for the kids. Right now, we get hot lunch, but we have to go over to the Atkinson and walk back over, and that's not fun on a winter day. So
40,000 new revenue to
get a van.
Well,
is that what it is?
hedging
40?
the bet because it wouldn't be.
If it's 16
What we
times 2 plus
Yes,
8.
you're
What we
assuming that
continue-
everyone will pay that, Mr.
Right. What we continue to see is an increase each year in the number of free and reduced who are eligible for it.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess the only concern I have is on how you would enable those slots, because if you were lucky enough to get in to begin with, now you are first choice for an expansion program when there's a long waiting list of people who would, I think, be happy to get in as well. So that's the only concern I see with regards to, without a defined process, so people know what to expect as this goes forward.
Right. There's a lot of glitches to opening it up to the waiting list first, or as a part of it, because what's going to happen is if somebody's not going to get the 6 hours, they're going to come off the list, and they may. It gets very glitchy. We dealt with it before.
Yeah.
And it does become complex.
Can you help me understand what the urgency for approval tonight is, rather than?
Well, the most important thing is parents need to know if kids have slots in the preschool from the waiting list. And also parents in our current program need to know if some of our parents need to find daycare. Some of our kids need to be in full-day daycare at this point. So if the 2.5-hour program isn't going to work for these kids, they're going to have to find a daycare. So we're kind of under the gun a little bit more.
To let them know.
And it's not that you wait till the spring, but in a way, we have to wait till the spring to find out who our incoming special needs kids are, so we had to wait to make sure that this was going to be possible, too. So now it's kind of crunch time for us.
I think I might have missed something, so I apologize if you're repeating yourself, but this is only going to affect 24 kids? Is that what you said?
Correct.
24 kids, and there's going to be some kids going to be getting bumped 1,000 and some, but you don't know what that split is right now? Is that correct?
So it's 8 students who will be an additional 1,000, and it's 16 students who will be an additional, 8 students additional 1,000, 16 students an additional 2,000.
2,000.
But we cannot assume that all of that revenue will come in, as we are going to give
Yeah,
equal
because you-
access to students who qualify for free and reduced lunch.
Okay.
So it's no more than 40,000.
No more than, and it
Right.
won't be 40,000.
Okay. So out of these 24 kids, you said, and maybe I again misheard you, but you said 5 families out of the 24 were not crazy about doing the jump?
5 families out of our entire 140.
Oh, 5 out of all the waiting list and current. Everybody really wants more hours at this point, and mainly because I think we're dealing with a lot of working parents now.
So what's that total, Mary Lou? It's pretty high, the waiting list.
The waiting list is approximately about 150 kids right now.
Yeah.
But some of them are like 2 months old.
Yeah.
I think the youngest was like prenatal or something, but they go on the list very young.
Okay.
So they're not all for September. And a lot of parents are going to hold off a year because they might have a fall birthday child. So that's a list from birth to kindergarten, really.
But this would take effect for next year?
Correct.
September?
Yep.
And when do you start collecting? I know Montessori gets the money like now. So do you get the money up front?
No, so all we do is ask for a $100 security deposit if they can afford to pay it, yeah.
Okay.
And if they're applying for free or reduced, you waive that because you don't know if they're going to get it or not.
Okay.
But we do have, as Jim Mealy said, there's a lot of children that are getting free and reduced, which is great because a lot of kids who can now come to preschool who may not have been able to. But that number has increased every year.
Okay. I think the first thing we need to do is entertain a motion to suspend the rules to vote on this tonight, although I've got to tell you, I'm not in favor of that. I would like to see at least, if there is going to be any public comment on this, that people have a chance to digest that.
We make the 26th our next meeting.
Yeah, so that would make it by the end of May. So if,
I feel the exact same way.
I mean, it's just...
So what does that mean?
It's just an impact.
Yeah, what's the impact?
Well, I think the impact is we'll lose some kids. I can't say for sure how many or definitely, but I think some parents are getting very antsy and need to put deposits down elsewhere. So I think that's the downfall, is we'll lose some kids to, for the need.
But we're not necessarily worried about filling these 24 slots, correct?
No, but you feel bad if there are kids that are currently in the program.
Right.
That would want to stay, but...
Yeah, I understand.
I mean, I think I'm not against this, but I feel like I want to hear from the community. So, I mean, I would imagine in the future being able to vote for this, but I think people have a right to kind of know and speak if they...
So to make this move along, is there a motion to suspend rules to vote on this tonight? Hearing none, we'll add this to new business on the 26th. Okay. Thank you very much.
So do you, I mean, just given that the school committee wants to hear from people, might it behoove you in one of your communications to your ECC parents to let them know that this has been introduced and that this will be discussed and voted on, hopefully, at the next meeting, so that people feel well informed? Not everyone's watching school committee tonight, so.
Yeah, I think they all, and they know it's out there, so I definitely can.
If you could just be clear that first reading was, and they wanted to have an opportunity for public comment.
Sure, yep.
Exactly, that's exactly.
I could do that. Yep.
Thank
you. Great, thank you, Mary Lou.
Thanks very much.
All right. Again, in the trying to move things forward with our audience, I'd like to jump to old business around the Kittredge Playground update. Good evening.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome.
So I'll introduce this one.
Thank you.
There has been a couple of projects now regarding the playgrounds around town, and particularly the school playgrounds. it all got started with Sargent a couple of years ago, soliciting CPC funds to upgrade the playground. And sounded like a great idea, and the town manager agreed with that and decided to put together a master plan of playgrounds for both town and schools, and created a list based on need. Kittredge was actually the top, I believe, but because we had the gym project going on, it got put off until this coming summer. So now it's Kittredge's turn. What we're looking at tonight is kind of giving the school committee an update on where it is so far and what to expect for this project, and they may be coming forward at some other point to donate money, because it's $100,000 that's given by the CPC, and if the project costs more than that, fundraising may cover some other aspects of the project, which you, as a school committee, would have to accept those donations. Just so you guys know, this presentation, it's been a little clunky working tonight. It's not the updated version. Okay. It was the original version, so just so you understand as we're going through it. So with that, I will turn it over to Paula and who are kind of heading up the committee.
So I'm Paula Mystery. I have 3 children at Kittredge, 2 second graders and a 4th grader. And so just volunteered to do this, was asked, and I'm volunteering.
Made eye contact.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
I'm learning a lot about the town and the school, which is great. So we're proposing to put in a whole new play structure on our playground. Our play structure currently is 19 plus years old, all of our structures. So we are proposing to put a new, provide a new location, which would be just along this fence, since we can see out the window, between the swings and the basketball court. It would entail us taking out a funnel ball system there, but we're happy to move that elsewhere because the children definitely do not want to lose that. And we've chosen this area, just to ease congestion amongst the playground, because there are points when all the children are out there at the same time, so that's close to 300 children, ease the congestion. And the current playground area has some drainage issues that the teachers expressed concerns about, that the kids cannot actually play on the structure there because of the drainage issues on certain days. So we're hoping that we can fix that. So this is our proposed play structure. It is a Berliner rope play structure. If you've ever been down on the Esplanade or driven down on Sorrow Drive, you may see one. It's used by 5 elementary schools there, before school, during recess, and after school. And there are 3 schools in Newton who recently put this in their elementary schools. And it's just a great piece that captures the older children, which is what we're really trying to capture, because they kind of phase out of the normal platform playground systems, and we want to engage them. This has a lot of fine motor skills, gross motor skills, keeping them engaged. They have to have 3 points of contact at all time. It helps them to just become braver, and they can play lots of games. And it has a lot of space for us adding accessories as we're fundraising. So it's a nice piece that gets a lot of attention. It meets all of the ASTM requirements as well as the CPSC requirements as well. So that's our goal there.
It looks fun.
It looks fun. So we have 3 options that we just want to present to you because we're still in the process of fundraising. So we just want to show you that we have our option A, which is kind of our dream. And we have option B and C. And the difference between those is about $12,000. And it's just based on our fundraising, how we do, which one we will go with. And we're hoping to include some benches there and just make this a great playground, not only for the school, but for the community. And if we are able to exceed our fundraising efforts and do a great job, we just had some ideas that the vendor recommended that would help give us more play and more fun for the children. So these are 3 additional items that, pie in the sky, let's hope we can do this, ideas. So this is our goal. And we're hoping to start construction on this in the summer, and then have it ready for the start of the school year.
And the original estimates are, you would fundraise above the $100,000, so like the
Yes,
first was $13,000 or something.
Yes, like 22 to, we don't have our site prep bid in yet. We're waiting on that, so we're hoping that, so maybe between 22 to 27 when it's all done.
So that first 119 does not include install or any of that?
It does include installation, but it does not include the site prep.
Okay. Could we go back to the summary slide, please?
Which one?
Summary,
Yeah, before option A. No, this is it. This is it. So site prep, signage.
The signage, I just got the vendor in the new updated version of this. The vendor is going to provide us with an age-appropriate sign.
Okay. And the buddy bench will stay indoors? Is that
The buddy bench is now outdoors.
Outdoors.
It moved outdoors before Governor Baker came, and it's around the corner from the gym when
That's
you're
right.
at Access. And we are hoping to get 2 additional benches. We thought about buddy benches, but we kind of feel like we don't want kids to have to sit there thinking that it is a buddy bench, but more to have a place to sit and play and chat. And for, on the weekends when grandparents come or caregivers, whatnot.
Jim, can you go back to the aerial photo?
Which one?
The very beginning.
Oh, of the site?
Yeah, the site plan. My question would be, is there enough room there for much expansion without starting to impinge on either the basketball court or the area for the
Swing
swings?
set. It's a swing set.
Yeah.
We do have enough area for the complete structure with all the attachments, which is Group A. For the additional other items that the vendor recommended at the bottom, if we should exceed ours, we would have to maybe come out a little further to provide the appropriate buffer zones for them.
Into the field.
Yes. Or we could maybe consider the original area where we're taking out pieces.
And that's down along the other fence. This is the fence on Bay State Road, or I forget.
Correct.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's along the 125.
125, correct.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Will the existing play structure stay there? The one that's on the 125
There was a report generated on all of the existing equipment at all of our playgrounds, and most of the equipment that is in use now comes out. The large play structure is actually in pretty good shape.
Right.
That will stay because it's
Okay.
still in good shape, but all the rest of it will come out except for the swing sets.
Okay.
And the swing sets need a little bit of work. You can see some stress areas where the pole is bending. Somebody thought it got hit by something, but it's just the actual stress of the swings. They used the narrower poles, and we're going to use the wider ones.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a question. Does this, I don't even know how to ask this necessarily, but does the siting interfere with any potential plans for adding classrooms or anything like that? It wouldn't be too close to
We're not
anything like
worried
that?
about that.
Okay.
At this time, but
Even if we were, it
Wouldn't be anywhere near there.
It's
That's what I
way
was
out.
curious. Okay.
Yeah, it's way out.
And then just the other thing is, so the drainage issues, is that part of this plan at all? Not from what you have to do, but from the town perspective? Do we know if they would help to alleviate that as part of this project?
Well, not here. There's not an issue of drainage at this site.
But if there's drainage issues where the kids can't play in a certain area, I was just curious if that would
Now,
be addressed.
what we're going to try to do is, as we put in the kind of perimeter border is kind of washed out, and that's part of the problem. So when we replace that, it should
Take care of
that.
it. Okay. Thank you.
On the existing structure.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
And in your, I'm sorry, Mr.
No, good.
In your fundraising, are you looking for in-kind support or labor support, or is that not going to be possible?
The only support that we're looking for at this time is help spreading mulch when we get the structure. We looked at doing the install ourselves. I've spoken to other PTOs who have done this. It takes 100 people over a course of 5 days that are sunny, and if it's a rainy day, it's just a lot of people that I don't think we can get Kittredge families, or I just can't see that happening.
Okay.
So we've kind of, we've discussed that, but we've kind of gone the way of it's probably safer and easier to pay someone to do this.
Right.
So first of all, thank you, Lisa and Paula, for doing this. As someone who has a child who's going to be the Kittredge next year, I really appreciate your volunteer efforts here, so thank you very much. Just something you said, Jim, earlier, the donations that come in, who do the people make out the check out to? The Kittredge School PTO? Is that how it works? And then we accept the donation from the PTO?
Correct.
That's the mechanism?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So, Paul, I don't know if you know this answer this question or not, but the timeline on receiving the donations, if you didn't receive donations till the fall, is that just too late, or when do you need to have money in hand, I guess?
Well, the money actually is not available until July 1.
Right, the CPC money.
CPC money. So what the other schools have done with that money is the vendors are very generous in the place an order. I mean, we don't want to go over budget when we are ordering, but there are items that we can add on, like that last slide. Those 3 items have a 2 to 3 week lead time. The main structure has a 12 to 13 week lead time because it comes from Germany.
Okay. But the main structure, I assume, is under $100,000?
It is at the level C. It's at 108,000, and we are halfway there, more than halfway there at this point, and we haven't started any of our in-school fundraisers.
Okay. So if you get donations in the fall, you could add on to it. That's the bottom line. Okay. And donations to the Kidder School PTO. Jim, how much did the Sargent School playground cost? How much did we spend? I know they raised a lot of money.
They did. I first multi-year.
260 something. I
It
would
was
say.
well,
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It was over 3
But
years.
they have a much larger enrollment.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
And they spent a long time doing it.
Yeah.
I just want to, I mean, I'm going to obviously reiterate my concern is that I think that some of the other schools, and I think who's on deck? Atkinson's on deck?
Actually, Drummond's on
Drummond is
deck
on
for
deck.
2 years.
Drummond's on deck
Yeah.
first. So, I mean, I just hate that, we could have different playgrounds for different schools. But that decision was made, before my time was here, but.
Franklin School, if this helps you, they actually added 44,000 to theirs, so they spent a total of 144,000 on theirs.
Were they able to raise it all at once?
Yes.
Yeah, their PTO fundraises differently than Kittredge.
Yeah.
So we have a spring fling that really builds the PTO budget every year, whereas they don't do that. So that's what they did to earn most of the money they needed. So it's just...
So you needed to about 125 prior to when, do you think, is like a drop dead date?
So ideally, we wanted to order this by the end of this month to start the project and have it before school. As I'm learning with different things happening, that may not happen, which I think it might be more fun for the children to see it coming, arriving, and going up as the school starts. I'm sure it might be a little distracting to the first kindergarten classroom, but so we are understanding that point as well. It's a matter of when do we want to put in our. I mean, we were hoping to have this budget underway, a couple months ago, and it just.
But the actual paying of the structure is from the North Andover School Department, and we just accept donation from the PTO. Is that correct? The vendor's going to build the school department.
The town.
The town, whatever. North Andover.
In that case, for the instant, for whatever additional amount, yes. Yep. Because the CPC fund gets charged for $100,000, and then we would take in the donation and get charged for the remainder of the project.
Yeah, but I'm saying that when is what's the company called from Germany?
Berliner.
Berliner. When are they going to send us a bill for this?
So I know that and it was a different company, when Franklin did it, they did not donate their money to the town until September. So the bill was not paid until that point in time. She's she understands CPC. The woman that is the vendor for this company started doing Ipswich River Park, which is a phenomenal playground, play space area, as a volunteer, just like we are, and has done this throughout. And now she's she works for the vendor from the warehouse side, and she's very well aware of how the school systems work. She's a retired school teacher as well, so she understands how the system works and is very accepting and understanding to that. We don't have our money. We know it's coming,
so
and
this
we'll work
is
with it.
I'm thinking out loud that could be dangerous, but I've obviously committed to both of you that I'm going to help you do some fundraising here. But to get it in hand prior to that date may be difficult. So if the school department of the town is going to be paying the bill anyways, can we just say go for the option A and then figure that out?
Well, take a loan. The point of
You're looking at me. I know you're
No, but I mean, like,
asking
if the town of North Andover is going to pay the bill anyways, right? And obviously we have the money to pay. We have $100,000 plus whatever we're going to get from them. And Franklin didn't we didn't see the money in their time until September. I'd hate to see you just order this now, and if you only have $104,000 committed, or $4,000. See what I'm getting at here?
Yeah,
I mean,
I see your
We
point.
want to order as much as we can.
I know.
Yeah,
It's
so-
with the lead time we need.
So, and again, if the decision is, the fundraising activities haven't yet
Kicked in.
They haven't yet committed the total amount. It's hard to say what we're going to go with.
But historically, how much? I'm sorry, Stan, I apologize.
Well, we came
How
in-
much do you historically raise in a year? The Kitcher School, all you're all in. You
Through
spring
our
fling and spaghetti.
Fling, well, I can only speak for this spring fling, and they raise about $15,000, which covers our operating costs. So all the fundraisers that we're doing are aside from this. We have a coin collection that we're going to do, loose change. We're going to do a fun run, which has never been done at Kittredge, and get sponsors for that. We're doing a night out at the Jimba Gym, which they're generous enough to give us 50% of their sales. And we have a movie night that the teachers are doing.
And this is directed fundraising, which
And it's
typically is
directed
more effective. than-
specifically to the playground.
Yeah.
And we're going to, there's so many families who, we just got the letter out today to families about what is actually happening. And there's so many families who are willing to direct donate, are just excited for this.
I feel very
movement.
confident you're going to raise another 25 grand, but I'm just wondering about the timeline and the logistics of it. If you're going to order it now or very soon, and you don't have that money in hand, what do we look for in that sense? I mean,
The only thing I'd say,
do
I
we?
just remind you that the extra pieces had a shorter lead time on them than the construction.
Can always add them on.
No, just so.
That could add to
you
labor
said-
costs.
Again, you said 108,000.
That's
was
the
for the long
option
lead.
C.
That's their
Oh.
least favorite.
So option A is 122,000 plus site.
And that's the 12-week lead time for that?
12 to 13 weeks, yes, she told us. She thought if we ordered by next week, we would definitely have it by mid-August. She was very confident in that.
Who pulls the trigger on that, though? I mean, whose decision is that to say we're going to order option A? Do we order that? Did they order
That's
that?
the playground group.
So can
Each school gets it.
Can I suggest the decision they need to make is go small because you don't have the fundraising completed, or defer as late as possible and potentially have the playground go up during the school year. And that's really what it sounds like. 'Cause I would hate to
Well,
try to.
my follow-up question before was going to be, so they pull the trigger and they go for 125. They go for A. Okay, they come up short. No, I'm just saying. I mean, reality is, if they're making this, who's on the hook for the money? The school, the town of Lieutenant is, regardless, is on the hook for the money.
Correct.
Okay, good answer.
But I will say that Franklin chose to do it during the school year, right?
Yes.
And they opened
Well, it
up.
got backed up, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it's, that has happened, and especially since you're using alternate site, it might be something that
It's
you
tolerable.
consider.
I was going to say the same thing, because we can delay the removal of the existing equipment so that still is there
Right.
for use until this is
I
ready.
mean, you might want to see how your fundraising efforts go and then
Sure.
update us along the way.
So the CPC money actually goes to the PTO, that's what you're saying? Is that-
It's for their use.
No, it doesn't.
No, that's
It's
just,
for their use. They're going to choose what they're getting, and then it would be charged to that line item they create.
For a maximum of 100,000.
So.
If it only costs 70, that's all CPC would give them.
yeah, no, I get that part.
So can we?
Who makes out the check to pay the vendor? What
The
is
town does.
But that's, I need to ask that question again. I mean, they're going to, Berliner's just going to take Paula's word for it, say, yeah, send it. I mean,
Well, we would cut a PO
yeah, okay.
with that account, like we normally would with any
So-
purchase.
Right, but I
So
think.
you have to make that decision then.
Which decision are you talking
Well,
about?
I mean, if Paula says, we want to, even though we've only raised $4,000 so far, and we want to spend $125,000, I mean, do we have to give you guidance on that? I mean, she doesn't have the money in hand yet. That's my point is, the town's on the hook for it, but you want them to decide. But the reality is that Berliner's not going to take Paula's word for it. They're going to take your word for it, or the
PO.
the PO.
With the PO?
Right.
Yep. So what we would do is, if we have $100,000, and if they've indicated that they've got this much fundraise that they're going to donate to the school committee, then that's what we would figure we had to work with.
But right now, they don't have that money, so, I mean, can we authorize you to cut a PO for the higher amount? I mean, do we have that authority?
With what funds?
Yeah.
Well, we don't have any funds yet, no.
No, but what funds are you authorizing out of the school budget to allocate to that?
It's kind of collateral, yeah.
Right.
So
In other words, you can't order next week, is what it's saying.
Let me try to draw
me.
closure.
Yeah, please.
We understand there's a timing issue. We understand we're just getting started on funding. We certainly can't commission a project when we don't have the budget for it. So I would propose that you go forward, try to solicit as much as you can. If you can give us an update, just so we have an understanding of where you are and what you think the trigger date is to get it in before school starts, and then we can make hopefully a decision there. Because I'd hate to have to send back the string cloud because we can't afford it and we got to pay for shipping.
All of our fundraising events will be done as of 14 June, so that
might
probably
be a good
the best
time.
ballpark as to when to make a decision, or, as to what we should do.
So they need to come up with another 15,000, basically.
Right, and what I don't want to see them do is encumber their normal operating budget to pay for what didn't happen in fundraising, because that would not be good either.
No.
So,
That's not.
would that be reasonable to come back when you get closer toward the ends of your fundraising because it sounds like there's still enough time to do the order and still it occur before the beginning of school.
Or early in the fall.
Or
In the
early
fall,
Can
yeah.
I just ask this question, do they need to come back to us for approval of that? Because our summer meetings, I mean, I think we meet, if I remember correctly, something like
The 10th or something?
The 10th of June, and then we go like the 17th or something, and then we typically don't meet in July.
Right.
So, I mean, do they need approval from us? in order
Well,
to
that's
place
why
an
we
order?
showed you A, B, and C, just so you could see what our goals are, and we
Right.
will stay within our goals. We have no intentions of
Our last
overspending.
meeting is June 16th, so that's after your fundraising goals are over. We should put you on the calendar for that meeting.
If you'd be available, I think it'd be very helpful that we can draw closure to we want to do as much as possible, but we can't spend money that we don't currently own. So,
Right.
okay, and if there's anything that can be done to help you with your fundraising, obviously a few of us are in the Kitchener District as well. We'd be happy to help with that.
Yeah, but can I just clarify? I mean, we're not approving whether or
No,
not
we don't. We don't
what
approve.
they choose to purchase.
The only approval will be accepting of the
The
donation.
donation.
Correct.
That's it.
So
we don't want that to be negative.
And the site,
And the
correct?
site. And the
No.
new
Oh,
location.
no, okay.
No?
we don't
Well,
no.
we don't require
That's
approval for that.
facilities.
I mean, there's already, that's the use of it already.
We're not acquiring land.
And
It's
if
just a-
it doesn't impact, the setback is legal,
Okay,
as far as
so
how far it is from
Yeah,
other
but
property.
just one more scenario, though. So they come back on the 16th, and they've raised over and above the 100,000, 17,000. They're $2,000 short from the A.
Mhm.
Then what do we do?
Is the-
We don't
It's not our decision.
That's-
Okay,
We don't
just
do
kick it-
anything.
they just kick it
They're
down.
making the order.
The project
and the
will have
PTO
to
would then
fit
be
into-
responsible for the balance.
They find someone to help them get
Which
the last
I
$2,000.
still don't think it's the case, but you can't tell me that Berliner would accept her. So the
No,
CPC
he would-
money doesn't come to our account or this account till July 1st.
July 1st.
All you get $100,000. So you wouldn't cut a PO prior to that, anyways.
It's not unusual, actually, for a vendor to at least allow you to place the order because they know you have proof that
Oh,
the
you're-
funds
yeah, right.
have been
Right.
allocated or
Right.
approved. So that's not unusual.
Right. Okay.
So we could easily get option C. We're definitely within that goal.
Yeah.
And we can do option C and then see where we are. For those additional items, they're just items that come off of that, like the hammock on the right-hand side, the, oops.
Go back to the
Oh,
picture
back
you were
up.
there.
Oh, you're talking about the main one?
Yeah.
The picture, just showing the photo. It's the hammock that comes off the side, and those are pieces that are add-ons, and so we can, according to the vendor, we can order those after the fact. Like that, the boy climbing up in the center on that cargo net thing. We actually would love to make that into a different sort of, it's a flubber net, they call it. It's a rubberized climbing wall, but it requires a stand, which costs more money. But if we can do option A, we would have that in there. It's just a matter of, and those things, it's aside from the main structure, those are little additions that she thinks we can just, you can add them on 5 years from now.
Yeah.
10 years from now.
That might be the worst-case scenario that
Right.
we have. Great.
And the only base needed is mulch. You don't need some special rubber ground or whatever for under something like this.
Has to be playground mulch.
It's a
at
different kind of
certain
mulch.
depth.
Right, but it doesn't have to be some, you
No.
go to some playgrounds with this kind of squishy stuff. I was just curious.
No, it does not. It has a 6-foot fall height from any point, which meets all the guidelines for ages 5 and up.
Great. Well, thank you very much
Thank you
for
for your
coming
time.
tonight.
Thank you.
for doing
Thank you.
this, and,
Exciting.
looking forward. Okay. So I think we are moving on to, let's see, eeny, meeny, miny. Why don't we get on to the superintendent evaluation, because that's probably the most important item on our agenda this evening. So in your packet, you will find the superintendent's year end-of-cycle report. And I know we've all had a brief opportunity to click through the linkages of evidence in the documents online. Dr. Price, you want to walk us through the evidence, and maybe what we can do is wrap up with the schedule of what we should be doing as a committee in the coming.
Yeah, I don't think it behooves us to go through every piece of evidence,
Okay.
but I did a reflection for each of my goals. So my job in this process is to reflect on the goals and really only the goals. So I've done that and tried to maybe some of the numbers may change in the direction setting, but if you look at goals 1, 2, goal 1, effective entry setting and direction setting, you can see from the survey, and again, this has been very fluid. So you can see from the survey that 88.1%, I'm sorry, the numbers kept changing, but 88.1% of the survey respondents felt that we had set the right vision for where we were headed, which is, I thought, very high. So, yes, maintaining momentum during the transition. A number of things here was really us talking about some of the things we brought in the fall, specifically our need to address math at the high school, and you saw the presentation that came forward. We've made some significant changes in terms of that, but also the other issue was around our students, achievement of our students on IEPs, and with Dorsey's presentation on the April 28th, you'll see that we've made some significant progress on that also. And then we also have made some significant changes to the adherence to mandates for the administrative evaluation process, which you'll see evidence of that. At this point, all administrators in the district have had both their goals completed and a mid-cycle evaluation. And I expect the same will happen with summatives. It's just too early in the game for that at this point. Goal 3, the participation in the NISSIP program. You will see there's a letter from Dr. Carla Bear where she reports, and I quote, "I have been an active, engaged, and reflective participant in all aspects of the induction program." There we go. Fair and effective teacher evaluation. You'll see some evidence that I have reported about some changes in terms of making sure that all of our teachers are getting all parts of the evaluation process done, and I hope you will click through that evidence and see we've increased the percentages of I looked mostly at non-professional status teachers. We've increased the percentages of folks who've gotten walkthroughs and their goal setting. We actually also introduced a step that was not part of the previous process, but which is part of the state process, which is an formative assessment, which is actually a mid-year check-in. It was a required part of the state process that North Andover Public Schools had not been doing in the past, so we implemented that. And the good part about that is it allowed evaluators to sit down with teachers and counselors and others to kind of give how we're doing mid-year. And really this was our goal, as Mr. Gillen will talk about, really trying to make PTS matter, that it wasn't just something that happened, that it was something that was earned.
Yes, professional teaching status.
Right, yes. We also we implemented a new approach to our district-wide walkthroughs, and you'll see all of the different evidence there about what we did at each school. We're not quite done. We still have Franklin to go. I have some concerns about our evaluation instrument in terms of just specifically how it's structured. So we're going to get with Dr. Scazzarella now in Human Resources, working with Mr. Gilligan, we are going to come up with a alternative approach. Specifically, the instrument that we adopted a number of years ago ends with a reflective question, which has gotten challenging for some of our folks folks to really give concrete feedback, because you're kind of asking a question but not really. And so I would like us to consider an alternative approach to an evaluation instrument. So just the instrument that we're using. So we're going to do that. I've worked with the union on that already. So. And then last, again, the numbers in my goals might have changed because of the survey, but we'll get it right. You'll see that 95+% of the staff, the last goal was visibility. We've talked about this a little bit. 95+% of the staff have met me, and you'll see that over 60% have said that I've visited their classroom or office space, and 98.7% say that they've seen me in their school, many of whom have seen me more than once. I do agree with a number of the comments that you'll see in the comment section that I have been less visible at the high school. I talked to the high school staff about that yesterday when we talked about what to do with Dr. Scazzarella's departure, and I've made a commitment to change that. Both for the remainder of this year and for next year. I think part of that was I'm most comfortable in high school, and so I felt like I had less to learn there. But as I said to them, I had a lot to learn about their high school, and I haven't been there as much, so that is part of my reflection. Just in terms of some of the evidence, much of this is the mid-cycle report, but you'll see that the first one is the survey results. One thing I have done is I've pushed the proposal of the key 3 to 5 strategies to July. I had initially thought I would do that in May. The challenges of all the hiring that I am involved in right now has really made me push that off. I just haven't frankly, had the time to do it by this time, so I've been in contact with Chairman Gross about that, and he knows I've pushed that off a little bit. But other than that, the key strategies in our plan will really not be ready till September, and that was already thought about. And then end-of-year evidence. As much of this you already know. Presentation about mathematics in terms of my school visits. My goal was 100. I'm way over 100, so you'll see that. NISIP, you've got Dr. Baer's wonderful letter. The end-of-year evidence for the effective classroom teachers, you will see the percentage of completed educator evaluations and also the walkthroughs. And then visibility. My Twitter feed is always fun if you don't follow me on Twitter to look at. I added a few more parent and staff emails that you may want to look at. Our newsletters that Cindy Parent has done an amazing job. A number of comments on the survey that they're impressed that we actually went all year and we haven't missed a month on the survey. And then also some school visits. So, I encourage you to click through it. I'm hoping that all this evidence allows you to do your part of the process easily. That was my goal, to help you make it easy.
You certainly have the evidence. So I'd like to do 2 things. One is ask the committee if they'd like to comment on the evidence that they've seen so far as they go into the reflection of the evaluation. And then the second is to kind of clarify what the next steps are moving forward.
And my vision was tonight, if you had any questions as you were about to go off, I could provide more or what you needed from me.
So anyone care to jump in? Good?
I just, a question about the induction program. Did you do any reflections or something?
So Stan, I've talked to Carla about this pretty extensively. It is really not the policy of the NISIP program. I mean, part of this is that it's a confidential mentoring program. So to have my mentor report out or share any of that feels like it's against the idea of the program.
I understand that.
So I asked about that because I know you had asked about it previously.
I was thinking more about your own reflections about how that has been.
No, the big product I had to produce this year was my entry report.
Okay.
Which you've seen.
Yeah.
My question was going to be around the high school comments, and you've already addressed it. Exactly. And I had speculated that it was because you felt strong about high school, your experience, but I think that it's a good place to visit, especially now that we have a change coming. So.
Yeah,
that's great.
and I had a great meeting with the high school staff yesterday about both the short-term and long-term needs about the high school. And I think, and I said at the end, I said, it's really interesting. You walk into an elementary school, it's really easy to walk into an elementary school and go into a classroom because there's always crazy fun stuff going on. But when you run around, when you go to the high school, it's just different. And so I really kind of said, which is such an interesting thing to me. I'm a high school person. But I just said, if there's something going on, let me know. And I've already gotten a number of invites. So
excellent. That's great.
Interesting. Do you see, how do you see us confusing it at all, the comments, which were very interesting. I mean, probably the most interesting part in some ways, right? How do you see us? Is there any way that you could see us using that as part of the process? Up to us, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think your job is to comment not just on my goals, but also to look at the rubric. And so I wonder if those comments might be helpful as you assess me against the rubric. I will tell you, I made a commitment that I was, you know me, I share everything. There's some not so favorable comments in there, and I shared it all. So you've seen it. There's a bunch of typos too, so shared them too.
They're all there. Like I said, you can't please everybody.
Yes, you wouldn't want me to. So, but I would think, Stan, they might help you as you're looking at the rubric.
Okay.
Would be my thought.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on the artifacts?
It's very helpful.
Okay. So what we, I think, agreed to last time was we would review the artifacts that she has to date, understanding that there are still some things being done to close out the activities.
So just in terms of the survey, Mr. Gross,
Yes.
I was anxious to close down the survey after I just made a major announcement about a significant change here in the district. So I have kept the survey open. I will make sure you have access to anything in addition, but I also wanted to get you the evidence. So, some of the numbers will change, but...
But we want at least 2 weeks of exposure. And we've
Yes, and we've done that.
Yes.
But I was anxious if someone had a reaction to an announcement of, the human resources director, and I'm about to make an assistant superintendent. I didn't want them to then click on the survey and say it's closed.
Shut, right. That's smart.
I didn't think that was a good optics for our committee or for me.
Okay, so at our next meeting, we will, what I think we need is for people to take the template that Bev sent around in the minutes and do the ratings. There are 3 parts to that. One is on the new superintendent components, on the indicators, rather. And if I recall, so the step 1 is professional, the assessment towards goals that we need evaluated, and that's a straightforward. Some did not meet or exceed across the 5 rubric. And then the second step is on the assessment of performance on standards. And that's where I think we're going to have to let people do the assessments based on what they feel was most important, given that we didn't a priori establish what the standards for evaluation would be when Dr. Price started. So what I'd like to do is ask that you edit the document and then email your edits to me. And if you have comments, they'll be referenced by the initials of who made those comments, and we'll have to figure out that, but I'm sure we'll be okay. And then I'll compile that, and then we'll review that together at the next meeting, if I recall. Is that what we agreed to?
When do you want that email to, Mr. Chairman?
Say again?
When do you want that email to by?
May 20th.
May 20th, if you can. That was a request, and that way I can consolidate that and provide an overview, and then we will review the overview in open session on the 26th, and then we would basically vote to accept the evaluation at that time.
And you would send us a copy before the 26th
Yes.
for us?
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay? Okay. Great. Well, this has made it very easy.
Good, that was my hope, was to make it easy for you.
Thank you, sir. Thought I heard.
And is this available on the public as well?
Yes, anybody can see all of
So
this.
there's no hidden things here.
The only thing I did was there was one teacher who put her name on it and I took it off.
Just
Other than that, I just, so. And Mr. Gilligan has offered to, give you his overview if at any point, not probably publicly, but, he's got my year in pictures, I think, is what he's.
Yeah, it's a thematic show, and
I'll
I
go
think
get some popcorn and be right over.
it's actually, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, but I think when you look at Jen's Twitter feed, and you have to go to mine sometimes because she doesn't like to tweet about herself. It's pretty remarkable, all of the visibility and the different, not only sports and fine arts, but a lot of the academic stuff that parents don't necessarily see every day. But we have the good fortune to go into these schools and see all the cool stuff that's happening. And Twitter's really been a valuable tool for parents to quickly say, wow, I didn't know they did this at the middle school or at the Sargent or at the Thompson. So it's been awesome, pretty awesome.
I was inside a whale the other day. Did you? They have this big blow-up whale at Sargent, and I got to go inside a whale.
I've actually found it really interesting because, my kids are all Kittredge,
but what some of the other elementary schools do, and just the programs and the activities within the classroom. So, I mean, that's been really, I think, enlightening.
I would agree.
And I'm just reviewing a Twitter feed. I was dizzy. Just where you were and how quickly you bounced from venue to venue. So
On a scooter.
On a scooter.
On a scooter.
I think we'll have to check for clones. So.
Yeah.
Great. So thank you very much.
Yep.
I'd like to move on to the budget status report, Mr. Mealy.
Mr. Mealy.
How we doing? How's the Munis treating you?
Munis.
Much better.
25 grand at the black.
We might be at.
Problem solved.
So,
For the kitchen.
Is that in here?
we are still projecting the same $150,000 need out of the stabilization fund. What I do want to explain, we can now generate the report that we want to generate, and I could have done it two ways. The way I did it, which is what's been expended to date, so you'll see a spend rate averaging around 75% when we're about 81% through the year, or I could have shown including encumbrances.
Yeah.
The problem with that is it's going to show a much higher spend rate because we encumber all of our salaries, which is a high percentage of our budget.
Right. So
and it doesn't really show much.
Over budget.
Right, exactly. But where we thought we were all along and anticipating $150,000 need from the stabilization fund. And I did update, if you looked at this, the out-of-district costs. I'll just draw your attention to not a lot, and not surprisingly, not a lot of activity takes place this time of year. So we didn't have any changes in March, and those changes that do happen now are a much smaller number than those that happened earlier in the year. So but just keep in mind that a 45-day to a placement is only going to cost us an additional $6,400 for this year, but that could be $45,000 to $65,000 depending on the placement that is added to our next year's out-of-district costs. And so you can see right now we're at 148, and like I said, whatever happens between now and the end of the year won't have much impact either way.
So in the special town meeting, the $150,000 we took out is for this year?
Correct.
Yeah.
Which means that if needed, next year we could get $250,000 from the stabilization fund maximum, because the maximum you can get in a 2-year period is $400,000.
Right, but the following year would be 150.
Correct.
Right, correct. Yeah.
Yep.
And do you remember, we did build in a reserve on our budget, so.
We didn't put any more money back in that stabilization fund this year, did we?
No.
Would we?
Wouldn't
so
need
next year
to.
we might.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? My question is, are we sure of the data based on the tool meltdown?
Yes, and mostly it's a reporting issue. The problem last time was that the encumbrances weren't correct.
Okay.
That's been corrected.
Okay. So we're certain of the data, though.
Yes.
Good, thank you. And
Yep. That's great.
appreciate you and the team spending all those late hours doing such things. Great. Last item on this meeting is first reading of a reallocation of one elementary reserve classroom teacher.
Yes, and again, I am asking that we suspend the rules and vote on this, and I think you'll understand why. If you remember back to our budget presentation, we had 2 elementary reserve on there. One was proposed to be used for curriculum, and one was proposed to be used for furniture. I will say, while we went through the process, I did get some pushback on the furniture, especially from the FinCom, saying I should use other alternative funds for that. You'll hear I'm going to have to figure out what those really are. And I'm going to ask Mr. Gilligan to explain, but I am proposing to actually, rather than have a reserve, actually add an elementary school teacher to the base. Same concept. We want to get as many elementary school teachers as we can in, and then as we get additional classrooms, be able to fill those classrooms. But we feel that there's a need to add one for next year, and Mr. Gilligan will explain that. I will also tell you that whenever you add a position, so we have the $55,000 in the budget, so this is just the recommendation is to take that $55,000 and not buy the classroom furniture and use it for a teacher. The other impact of the cost is on benefits, and I've talked to Town Manager Mailer, and he understands and is supportive of this. If Mr. Mealy, as we finish out the year, if we do have any additional funds that have not yet been expended, he does understand that we will be looking to try to buy some furniture with end-of-year savings if we have any. Correct?
As opposed to prepay?
We don't want to prepay too much here.
You can't bring it up.
So, do you want to explain that, Mr. Mealy?
Sure. It's just what we don't know is, for instance, closing out POs, how much that might generate. So it could actually be less than the 150 when all is said and done. And what those funds could be used for, you could either prepay or you could use them for things that we were going to do with next year's budget money, but have committed those funds elsewhere.
So I don't think
now.
it would be either one or other. It would be both.
Okay.
If again, as we close out, that's always what happens at the end of the year. You never quite know the number till the end.
It would seem to me, though, that the 150 that we got from the stabilization fund should go to prepay or
Yes.
or something.
Correct.
Correct.
Not furniture.
No.
No.
Yeah, you gave us the sped money and we bought furniture.
No, it would be other funds.
That's why I was talking about the closing out of POs.
I understand.
Okay.
What would this do to class rot?
Mr. Gilligan had it, but Mr. Mealy can't bring it up, so he went down to copy it. So, I'll preface it, and Mr. Gilligan will show you. We can't add classrooms in a lot of places. We can add them at Sargent and at Thompson. And you're going to see that Sargent does not have a need for an additional class at this time, but Thompson clearly does. So we would be adding it to the first grade at Thompson. The one thing is, it does help across the district, because if we didn't add it to the first grade at Thompson, I would argue we would have to reduce the number of kindergarten classrooms at Thompson. And one of the things that we're capable of doing is moving kindergartners to Thompson from other schools.
Okay.
So Mr. Mealy's having some technical difficulties. Our slides due to Chromecast not allowing it to pull up.
Oh.
So I can send this electronically, and we'll certainly post it. Don't mind my notes on the side.
You getting two of the same?
You'll see.
No,
in a
you'll
second.
see. There's two different. Look at the highlights.
We'll have to talk to Mr. Grant about this Chromecast.
Thank you, Mr. Gilligan.
The graphics are good, though.
Thank you. Thank you. I even did this one myself.
Took him all
Well,
day.
Cindy
Took
Farrell.
all day, but he did it.
Okay. If you can go to the actual one with my green notes on the side. I was taking some notes on something else tonight. But if you take a look, especially at the class size, we just completed the other day, we looked at our out-of-neighborhood requests, and for you guys, I think, are all pretty familiar with that process. It's actually a really good process for us because it allows us to balance off some of these classrooms with people's requests. I do want to draw your attention to kindergarten, which is labeled as 0 when I imported it from the Excel. So kindergarten at the Atkinson was actually extremely high. It was 27 point something, 27.5 the other day. And as you look down with the kindergarten enrollments, if we keep the same amount we have this year at the Thompson School, 14 teachers, kindergarten would be at 17, but if you can look to the highlighted area, would be looking at 30 in first grade. And one of the things that we do know is that the Thompson and the Atkinson typically get later registrations, particularly around kindergarten and first grade, and that would become a challenge. So if you go to the second slide, when we add in the extra teacher that Dr. Price wants to allocate to reduce class size, and we do have the space at the Thompson School, you can see that at this point we have a much more manageable 20 at first grade, and we have 17 at Thompson. And it's really important to notice the 17 at Thompson. In some ways, Thompson is a very good sister school to the Atkinson because of their location. We're in the works still. Would like to reduce Atkinson's size a little more. We're in the process of working with a couple families and siblings that are different schools. But the 17 at Thompson allows that to be the overflow for students that register, because we do know typically a lot of families in some of the elementary schools register now, but we also know that there are some families that register later in the summer, they move to town, and occasionally we have some folks that just don't think of doing it until school starts.
It just doesn't make any sense. We have more students now than we did last year at this time for kindergarten to reduce it. I mean, because you could argue, Jen, why aren't you running two kindergartens at Thompson at 25, right? But we have more students now at this point than last year at this time, and to reduce from 15 to 14 just makes no sense to me.
Okay. So it really solves a whole host of problems for us, particularly at kindergarten, but it also is very beneficial at that first grade level.
We just can't run first grades at 30.
Yeah, I would have a hard time swallowing a class of the average of 30 at first grade. That just
When you know the nature of the current kindergartens at that school, and that probably adds to the conversation too.
Yeah, two trends that are a little different in the kindergarten, as I follow this very closely. Kittredge usually has a lot more room at this time of year, and they're getting a little higher. But the nice thing is that Sargent School also has room, and that allows us the ability with some of the other registrations that may take place. It's really beneficial with some of the bus routes to be able to bus a kindergarten student out of neighborhood, if need be, to one of the other schools.
Great. So,
I just do want to comment, and I know I have a bent on this. Some of these class sizes are just not okay.
Yeah, I was just, so there's 27 that are over 25 students.
So
That's just,
we're doing the best with the space and the allocations that we have, and I'm excited that we're going to be able to put an additional, if you guys approve, on this recommendation. But I do see, when you look at this, you see what we're dealing with in terms of the future for our schools and how something we need to address.
yeah. So can we make sure this gets put onto our?
Yep, we
our
will
packets of
definitely
data?
make sure it's.
People can have
Yeah,
access to it.
I'm not sure with the Chromecast tonight, but.
Comments from others? I just have one question, but
I do know that off of Sutton Street, there's a whole new neighborhood that is about 4 or 5 houses. Not that
no, it's more than that.
Is it more than that?
Duplexes, it's at least 10.
They're duplexes, so that's going to impact the school. So I think, not that it's going to hit first grade, but all the more reason to, because of more space to do something there.
Yeah, we're aware they have 8 new houses and there's only 2 left for occupancy, or 8 new units. It's at least.
So have some of those already registered potentially? Or?
We track the registration, so these are live registrations as of noonish today. But typically in developments like that, realtors call and they find out, and people are really in touch, because that's one of the selling points when in town, with particularly the newer developments, not the rentals, but new houses.
Yes.
So the parents aren't ones to wait when they register.
And the reason I'm asking you all to suspend the rules is I'd like to post this job. We have a huge applicant pool for our kindergarten position at Kittredge and our second grade position over at Franklin, and I would love to just get this going quickly. So that's why I'm asking to suspend the rules for this.
We're getting between 150 to 193 applications in those jobs.
And allow the team to go forward and hire.
So make a motion to suspend the rules and
second.
So brief discussion. I understand the urgency of, we have a candidate pool. It'd be nice to be able to hire them. In my experience, there's nothing wrong with waiting a week or two. The downside is we would lose a candidate, and I appreciate that.
It's getting late.
It is getting late, and I wonder if there's going to be a big difference on May 23rd or May 26th. Or can you post without the...
I can post it as an anticipated opening with your permission. I guess you could approve it officially before. I'm not going to hire in the next 2 weeks.
Hire, right.
Would you permit me to just say one thing?
Yeah.
I usually don't get involved in this, but as someone who works really closely in the principals on hiring and the inordinate amount of applications that we've been getting, in talks with Mr. Raymond and some of these other folks, we've had some really good applicants for the other jobs, and there's only 2 openings there. But through looking at some of those candidates for the position, I think it's the second grade at Franklin, we know that we have some really strong candidates that are also people that Thompson may be interested in if they're not selected for that job, because there's only 1 spot.
Yeah.
But those people are also entertaining offers at this time from the competitive schools. I just wanted to add that because I had a nice conversation about a few candidates.
And we're not, the budget allocation is already there. My push would be, it was supposed to be for elementary school class size.
Yep.
And so I feel like it's in keeping with what we've been saying all along, is that we're addressing it. It is addressing the same need just in a different way.
No, I don't disagree that this is the right thing to do. The question is, can it wait till next meeting?
Do we have a plan for, I'm sorry, do we have a plan for the furniture, or is that going to be an ongoing question now?
That's going to be an ongoing question, but one of the things that we did talk about, and we'll talk with Mr. Mailer about, is are there other funds that we can access for that type of
Or
stuff.
one-time grants or other things that...
And, you know, I've talked, the furniture was mostly going to be at Franklin. I've talked with Joe Clark, and he understands this.
Came up in the survey comments, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, I mean, we're going to do our best to address it.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No. All in favor of suspending the rules to vote this tonight, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? No abstentions? So I'd entertain a motion to accept the additional 1.0 elementary classroom first grade teacher at Thompson for FY17.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? My only comment is thank you, right? Thank you for moving the class size issue forward. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The staff at Thompson, especially Mr. Raymond, appreciates it greatly.
Great.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It was first.
Yeah, but there may be some reshuffling too.
Oh, right.
So it would be a classroom teacher at Thompson.
A classroom, additional first grade classroom. We may not be hiring a first grade teacher because you might move a third grade to a first grade or a second grade to a first grade. But we're adding an additional first grade classroom, just so clear for the minutes.
Okay.
Doesn't mean we have.
It's an additional position.
Yeah, it's an additional.
They're going from 14 to 15, but the teacher hired may not be.
Right, but there is an additional classroom in.
Okay, so
Material. Yep.
we might, that might need to be cleaned up on the motion.
Just wanted to be clear.
That's fine, I appreciate that. We're out of public, so quick school committee comment? Mr. Tracy?
Just quickly, I don't know if the superintendent has a timeline. I know obviously Dr. Scazzarello is taking a new job. You sent out an email.
Yes.
Maybe you could just reiterate that, because I'm sure everyone got your email.
Yeah, sure. So I met with the high school staff yesterday. We had a good conversation about the short-term and long-term needs of the building, and it felt, given the tightness of the high school principal pool and the time of the year, it was the best option, and also actually the needs of the building. It was the best option to go and post an interim position. So we did post that, I believe, today, if not first thing tomorrow morning. I sent it off to be posted. So that will be posted. If not already, it will be posted. That needs to be open for 2 weeks before I appoint. And it is really an appointment. An interim is an appointment by the superintendent. I did say to the staff, if I feel that I need a small committee to look at different applicants, I will ask them to do. If there's someone who rises to the top and it's pretty simple, I'm going to just appoint. So we had that conversation. They seemed comfortable with that conversation. The earliest it would be was 2 weeks. I need to have the posting up. I tried to get it up today so that it would be as quickly as possible, and I did close it exactly 2 weeks from the time it was posted.
Could it be an internal?
It could be. One of the things that it's really important to me that this is not a backdoor to the high school principalship, my expectation is that whoever fills it would not be somebody who would consider long-term. Okay. I did have a small conversation with the faculty saying, well, what if somebody comes in and we love that person? And I said, well, then they could apply for the job and go through the full, rigorous, internal, external process. Mm-hmm. But that's not what I'm necessarily looking for. Okay. I'm looking for someone to come in. We talked two issues, and I've shared this, is that there's some structural issues that really need to be addressed. I think people are struggling, and I think people continue to struggle with the cuts that were made around administration at the high school, having an assistant principal also be an athletic director, but also we're putting in department coordinators back in next year, so there's a lot of structural stuff. And then there's some cultural stuff that needs to be addressed in terms of departments feel fragmented and how do we bring them back together. So we really defined what we would want an interim to focus on for next year. But it should be within 2 weeks.
Thank you for that update.
Yeah, and I thank you for asking me.
Okay. Mr. McDevitt?
Nothing. I'm just excited for the track on Sunday.
There you
Hopefully
go.
that's good weather.
It's going to be a special day.
I don't know if anybody got a chance to see the middle school play last week, but it was pretty fabulous. It was great. Yeah, and they did a great job. The kids did a great job. So did the people who helped put it together, the staff. So.
And Miss Durkin was leading the orchestra.
Yes, she was.
I don't know how she does it.
And a bunch of high school people played.
Yeah, I mean, she's unbelievable.
She is unbelievable.
It was really, really great.
Thank you. Good. I'm good too. See people Sunday if weather's good, and look forward to that dedication.
That'll be great.
Me too.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We're out.